Algorithms make us more self-centered, and it feels like it's really starting to show. By now, most of us know that social media algorithms are designed to show us things that it thinks we like, so that we engage with it, we spend more time on the app and on the content, we comment, like, interact, share, we do something with it. Because those apps make, drumroll, money from advertisers. So it's us. It's our attention, our time, our energy, our eyeballs. That's the commodity, which is basically what happens anytime a service or app is free. Once an algorithm has us figured out, it's going to show us a steady stream of whatever it thinks that we want to see. The only thing the tech companies truly care about is keeping us on the app so that they can make their money, because that's how they make a living. AKA, hey, I'm just doing my job. Social media algorithms are designed to maintain our status quo of interests, likes, and opinions. It's really easy to convince ourselves that our whole personality, our sense of humor, fashion, favorite shows, movies, hobbies, music, all that are completely unique. But I don't know, a lot of us might be more homogenized than we realize. Depending on your algorithm, you could have a really similar general vibe to someone on the other side of the country that you've never met before, that might be from a very different background as you, or different set of experiences. Your cultural and media influences could be similar because of the algorithms. Kind of like a digital version of the subcultures and scenes that we had much more pronounced in past generations, at least in America. You know, like nerds, hipsters, jocks, emo kids, theater kids, preps, all that. And algorithms might recommend us content that's a little bit out of our comfort zone, but we almost never get recommendations that feel flat out wrong for us. It's why it can be so disorienting when you log into a platform from somebody else's account, like a parent, friend, partner, and then you see it, it's like, what the hell am I looking at? On platforms like Netflix, you might even see different thumbnails for the same shows, depending on what the algorithm thinks you want to see or who it thinks you are. The thing is, the more time that we spend living in the center of a mini world that is 100% customized and 100% catered to us based on our own personalized interests, i.e. our YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, TikTok, Netflix algorithms, the more that we live in a world where we are always the center of attention. And plus, given the increasingly dire state of the world and our constant awareness of this, because of the constant stream of information we're taking in all the time now, it leads to a more urgent need to feel better, or at the very least to feel some semblance of control, even if it's just temporary. And this short-term fix that basically all of us seek is what drives us to scroll endlessly, or to entertain ourselves endlessly, or to stimulate our brain in some way through entertainment and games, drugs, other things. This leads to things like everybody wanting to be the main character. Do people still say that? I don't know. At least a few years ago when I was more active on social media, people did. I haven't been super online for a while, which is why I'm out of the loop of the memes, whatever. But that main character syndrome, that underlying symptom, is essentially just people wanting to have self-esteem and feel confident, have attention, feel important. Our social media algorithm is a place where we can feel in control, even if we don't truly have it. And the more that we spend time in our own personal echo chambers, the harder it goes to get outside of it. It can make us impatient or flat out ignore people or content that don't affirm our worldview. Ultimately, I think it makes us less empathetic to others. I think that the quality of our interactions in general is going down, meaning we have less face-to-face interactions. We might even have less FaceTimes or video calls and just have more Discord calls or phone calls, more texting, more DMs, more likes. But the thing is that when we're doing that, we're missing crucial information like, things like body language, tone, expressions. And these kind of communications that we're having are way more open to interpretation, meaning we might be missing out on all that crucial nonverbal communication cues that we rely on to understand what others actually mean. Like body language, tone, expressions. And the less that we communicate, the worse we get at communicating. And the less we want to do it because it's hard and we don't want to do hard things. Myself included. We're talking about practice? the general algorithmization, the general algorithmatization. I don't know. I'm going to edit out whichever one of those is a real word. The general algorithmization of basically everything is a big part of why it's hard as hell to change somebody's perspective if you've ever tried, and why it feels really hard to relate to others if they have different viewpoints than us. It's human nature. I mean, we're highly ego-driven, prideful creatures, and so testing our viewpoints around others usually makes us just double down on whatever our original perspective was and sink deeper into an us versus them mentality. I think there was a study a while ago that was showing that anger literally makes people stupider because it's making people shut down key parts of their brain. This polarization is a big part of why we have such widespread cultural and political division in America. And our opinions get reinforced over time through a steady drip feed of media and information that we get shown and that we consume. Before like 2010, you might have had 5 or so news channels to watch to build your starter pack of beliefs. But today, everything is highly tailored and customized just to us based on our algorithm. So we don't have to see things that we don't like or that we disagree with. At least you can just downvote and not see it. I mean, the thing is that back in the day with news channels, you could just always change the channel on the news, right? It's not permanent, but you still had much more limited options. In fact, to build a worldview, you might have to talk to other people more. You might have to think with yourself and introspect more. At least in my opinion, it seemed a little easier to build your view of the world more. Also, there's the general loss of third spaces that a lot of people have talked about already. You know, those are places that make it easy for us. Those are places that are designed to make it easy for people to connect with one another. You know, things like libraries, malls, parks, gyms, cafes. A lot of those have either disappeared or have been bought up and become hella corporate. You know, like a Planet Fitness or a Starbucks or a Dunkin' Donuts. You know, they're the exact same every place. You always know what to expect, but it's kind of lacking, you know, humanity. It doesn't feel like it was made by people. It feels like it was made by a robot. That's kind of what I'm saying. And while there are still plenty of third spaces out there, you really have to go out of your way to find them, because we're also living through late stage capitalism, C word, where corporations run things and a lot of the structures of our society crumble slowly. Tech companies have made it very easy and very tempting and convenient for us to just go to work, go home, consume content and media, go to sleep, rinse and repeat day after day. You really have to go out of your way to connect with people these days. Other things that influence why we interact less and less, the C word I already mentioned, capitalism. It's a recession, inflation's going on, everything costs a lot. Egg prices are crazy, going out costs a lot, so it's way more expensive, right? Why would you go out and spend time, energy, money, get dressed, coordinate schedules, do all that just to possibly not even have a good time, when you could just, on the other hand, sit at home, stay in bed, watch TV, play some games, and have a predictable, pretty great time? All that's just to say is I don't blame people for this. I don't blame myself for all the times that I find myself doing this. Also, anxiety and depression are on the rise, especially with young folks, which makes sense why people wouldn't want to go out as much. It's a lot harder when you're depressed or when you're anxious. Or if you do go out, you might be constantly wondering what others think of you and how you look. Like, do I look like I'm having a good time? If someone takes a video of me right now, will it look like I was having fun? Do I look cool? Do I look sexy? Do I look fun? All that makes sense. I mean, growing up, I didn't have to go to school worrying about things like being unalived, like nearly every kid has to today, and doing all these drills for school unalivers. Also, for young adults, it can be hard to connect with others because a lot of people are hyper-focused on their careers, and so they might neglect others or even, unfortunately, use others as a means to advance their careers. I've been on both sides of it, and it sucks. Also, the reality is that COVID changed a lot. During the peak of COVID, we spent so much time in isolation, and COVID does still exist. It's still out there, even if we've collectively moved on as a society. But it fundamentally altered our timeline as a society. And during COVID and lockdown, if you didn't struggle with social anxiety before, you're experiencing a prolific amount of loneliness and boredom. And if you were socially anxious or lonely, it still sucked. And during this time, streaming platforms ramped up their services to crank out as much content as they could, as many new shows, movies, video games, corn. All this led to us getting used to spending way more time on our own and or at home. I live in New York City, and I can't tell you how many times I've been feeling FOMO about spending a Friday night at home watching TV or playing games, only to look out the window and see plenty of my neighbors doing the same thing. It's not that crazy. But all this leads to more individualism, where we're all used to feeling like the center of the world, where a lot of us don't really know how to conversate with others without solely wanting to talk about ourselves. A lot of the time we can be so focused on sharing our perspective and feeling heard by others rather than trying to put in some of that same energy toward genuinely listening to others and giving others that same experience that we are craving. Basically, a lot of people end up using conversations as their own personal therapy sessions, especially with acquaintances or strangers. Or they might have a dynamic with a friend where that's kind of all the dynamic is, a caretaker dynamic. And I'll be honest, that's been me on both sides plenty of times. I just don't think it's healthy. And I'm not saying that there's no time where that's okay. That's a key part of building a deep connection with another person. Listening to others and genuinely offering empathy and support takes energy and effort. And this empathy gap can lead to us being more impatient with others if the topic deviates from something that we're not immediately interested in, because we're all used to being hyper-stimulated all the time, and anything less than stimulation right there on that brain stem, just right there, is boring. So that interactions with others seem boring, and then we don't want to deal with that. So then we don't prioritize that, and then we don't get practice in building connections. So then we become worse and worse at that, and then our interactions ultimately suffer. And as a result, the quality and the depth of our relationships suffers too. This can also play out in much worse ways during crises, like people not having the social and community bonds to fall back on for support in a time of crisis. Or everyone assuming that someone else is going to do something in a time of crisis. Like here in New York when a white ex-military person, Daniel Penny, murdered Jordan Neely, who is a black mentally ill person experiencing a crisis, on a packed train in New York, and nobody's tried to stop or do anything. Or the countless times that men assault women in front of others and nobody intervenes. Or the countless times that cis people, usually cis men, assault trans women in front of others, especially black trans women, and nobody does anything. We're often more used to filming a crisis as a reflex, or worse, in basking in the spectacle of what's happening, than actually wanting to stop a crisis from happening. Basically, we don't want to inconvenience ourselves because algorithms make everything at our convenience. Modern entertainment makes everything at our convenience. The nature of the world that we live in means that everything revolves around us. Uber, you can get a car directly to come to you, to pick you up, to take you to your destination. DoorDash or Grubhub, whatever, all those apps, you can get food delivered directly to you, whatever you want, all the time. I mean, obviously, depending where you are, depending on the time of day, and of course, if you have the money for it. Caveat. People in American and Western society as a whole, especially younger folks, like Gen Z, millennials, Gen Alpha, we spend a lot of time looking at our phones in public. I think I read a report somewhere about Gen Z being afraid to take phone calls or make them. And while I'm technically a millennial, on the millennial Gen Z cusp, definitely on the millennial side, I still do avoid calls. I do avoid calling people or picking up so many times. A lot of times it's just that it's inconvenient, or I'm afraid that I'm gonna have to feel like I have to be on. Also, a lot of young people are afraid to make eye contact in public. We might end up looking at our phones as a way of avoiding any social interaction and also avoiding rejection. If we don't try to connect with others, we don't have to experience any potential pain, any potential fear of rejection. We can just look at our phone because it's our own tiny little universe where we get to have control. And we get to reinforce our sense of importance and value and our sense of self that way. Like with the fear of rejection, another effect of us being collectively less empathetic is conflict avoidance. We can fear conflicts with others, and in times of disagreement, we might just stop talking to people rather than address the issue. Some people might have a fear of standing up for what they believe in online, out of the very real fear of getting harassed or doxxed online. Some people are conditioned and expected to be more empathetic than others, and have to be, in order to just navigate through a world that was not built for them, i.e. women, black people, trans people, indigenous people, people of color, fat people, queer people, lower caste people, disabled people, while others are raised and expected to be self-centered, i.e. white people, men, cis people, skinny people, rich people, Brahmins, upper caste people. There's a certain kind of conversational selfishness that is allowed and supported. I especially see this with a lot of men who don't seem to know always how to participate in a reciprocal conversation with one another. Meaning they literally might not know how to ask questions about others in a conversation, or to genuinely be interested in what someone else has to say, especially women. Unless it's women that they're attracted to if they're a straight man. And even with other men, a lot of guys simply just trade off talking about themselves rather than actually being curious about one another and the experience of life that one another is having. This just sounds ridiculous to say out loud, but I mean, it's true. Unless it's somebody that we might judge as being more powerful than us, meaning someone that we could benefit from just being around by social capital or being attached to in some way. Is there any hope? Are we all doomed to be selfish, lonely losers? Can we break out of the algorithm and save ourselves, humanity, and the world? No pressure, no pressure. But yeah, I think that some things can help us collectively. Just because it's hard to connect with other people doesn't mean it's impossible. We just have to go out of our way a bit more. We can try active listening more in conversations and finding ways to ask thoughtful questions of others. You might try asking follow-ups like, oh, what did you think of that? Or how did you feel about that? Can you tell me more about that? What did you mean by that? It might make things easier if you try doing this in social situations for hobbies or activities that you already like, because those are environments where you're already going to be surrounded by people you at least have one thing in common with. So it might be easier to connect. Obviously, this isn't professional advice. This is literally pure anecdotal, vibes-based advice. Basically, these days, we really have to go out of our way to meet people and connect. But the good news is we're wired for connection. And on the other side of all that discomfort, fear of being judged, insecurity, awkwardness, is life. So I just want to talk about this because a lot of people have talked about similar topics, but I haven't seen anyone yet tie together algorithms and the decline in empathy. And if people already have talked about this, I hope you enjoy my take. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think that algorithms are affecting society? Do you think that empathy is declining? Do you think that we're more empathetic? Do you think that a hot dog is a sandwich? Let me know all that in the comments. This is all my 100% subjective opinion. This is purely a feelings and vibes-based video. I'm just a guy making videos on his phone in his room. Nothing too serious, but I hope you like it. We're going to see what this channel evolves into. I know that I want to talk about social issues. I want to talk about technology, entertainment, arts, society, bring y'all along for the ride in my music career. I'm not certified in any way to talk about this other than just I'm a guy with a phone and some opinions. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.